Are you a manager who is eager to change the trajectory of your career? I have spent the last 23 years as a Fortune 50 leader learning from other industry leaders how to break free from limiting beliefs and habits. On the Might in Motion podcast, we focus on the 4 M's: motivation, momentum, mindfulness, and might. We bring you leaders from Fortune companies, doctors, and entrepreneurs. Their stories of living their own might in motion will inspire you to create your own action plan and achieve your goals. Welcome to Might in Motion.
Today's episode of Might in Motion is brought to you by Pantheon FM, Fortunes Magnified. Pantheon FM is changing the world through entrepreneurship. In this community, you will find everything you need to create, amplify, and monetize your world-changing business. Join us at pantheon.community/register/LAUA.
Tonight, I'm bringing to you Janine Graziano, the Chief Possibility Officer of Live Full Coaching. She's an executive life coach. She graduated from Penn State University with a Bachelor in Science in Food Science. She worked for Mars for 14 years. And then she left her job so you don't have to leave yours. She's the Chief Possibility Officer for Live Full Coaching, the mother of 3 children, 15, 13, and 10, the wife of 20 years to another PSU grad. She's a CrossFit coach and personal trainer. She's a Reiki master, and she is the author of Unapologetic, Work-Life Balance, a corporate warrior's guide to creating the life you love at work and home. Welcome to Might in Motion.
Hi, thank you.
Hopefully I didn't massacre your fantastic last name, because my maiden name was Lavecchia. So if I massacred that, I apologize.
I know, the world of a hyphen. I know it is what it is at this point. Thank you for that.
I'm so excited to have you here. We met, gosh, it's probably like a year ago. Like that, I think it was last summer.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah. And I'm excited to have you here because you have done so many different things in your life. You've reinvented yourself. I follow you on all the social media, and I know you really are truly Might in Motion because you post a lot, especially on Instagram, your physical fitness routines, and your family is involved in that. And I love that. I love what you do. So can you tell us a little bit of your history, how you ended up at Penn State and what you were focused on and what you ended up doing in your corporate career before we get into your journey into Live Full Coaching?
Yes. Yeah. So Penn State was like in my family. My brother was already there. I really wanted to go, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I feel so sad for like the young people who are like, you must know what you want to do right now. And like the average person changes career like sometimes. So
right.
I did go for food science. I loved it. It was very cool. We learned how to make imitation maraschino cherries, mayonnaise, chocolate. I mean, it was such a cool experience. And so my first job was with Mars, the candy company. They're now Mars Wrigley. Yep. So right out of school, joined Mars. And the great thing about that company, at least at the time, was they loved cross-pollinating people in different functions. So I actually got to reinvent myself within the corporate 4 walls, because I wasn't like company jumping. And so I did research on dairy fats and oils and sugar as a raw material scientist for 4 years. And then I moved into commodity purchasing and trading of the same ingredients I did all the research on. So it was a different part of the pipeline, which was very cool. Right. It was like the whole supply chain part, but the purchasing part of sugar, dairy, fats, and oils, a few years in each. And then I got tapped to go into HR. And that's when I got turned on to coaching. So my last 7 years at Mars was in human resources, where I was a general, they call it a specialist. The specialist is, I did talent management. I was a talent management director. So did performance management, succession planning, development planning. And then we used to assign coaches to our leaders. And that's where I'm like, oh, the bells and whistles going off in my soul. I'm like, oh, I want to do this. But it wasn't yet. It was just a little seed planted. But the thing that I noticed, and I mean, they were always amazing coaches. So this is no dig on the coaches that were there. It's just they were very focused on only leadership and only functional competence in the role. And I'm like, there's a whole dynamic human here. And I knew I wanted to be that kind of coach. I wanted to be the life coach for the corporate warrior. I knew it. I just knew it. I'm like, I'm going to do it. I don't know when, but like, what if they had a recent diagnosis? What if they recently got divorced, or now they're empty nesters, or, you know, they're sad because they're missing their kids' soccer games. You know, there was like a whole human on the other side, and they're like, la, 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 we don't want to hear that. Like, we just want to, you know, focus on your leadership. So seed planted, nurtured, grew over time. And my last few years, I was head of HR and purchasing for one of our startup companies. And I just, it was fine. I call fine the other F word. It was like fine, but I knew I wanted to coach, and it was an idea before it's time to coach internally. So I said, love you all. It's time for me to go follow the light. So I left after.
I mean, and it's, I love the fact of being in a large company, because you can have those opportunities like you had, where you were able to reinvent yourself throughout your career, but not lose all the knowledge that you basically have created by being with that one company, right? So there's a benefit there. And I really love what you said about, you know, there was all this focus on just leadership. And when you're moving from an individual contributor to a manager of people, it's the people, right? And you have to understand the whole person, and you don't, you're losing that opportunity. Like when you focus on more than just like, you know, hey, are you hitting all your metrics? And well, maybe there's a reason, maybe there's this, and you get deeper in it, you're going to get better people, way better people, and way stronger teams. So you pivoted and you said, this isn't really matching what your goals are and what you want to do to help people elevate their career. And so you created your own coaching for that.
Yes. Yeah. And that's why it's like unapologetic. You know, you mentioned my book, right? And just have it here. It's like, it's unapologetic, because so often people are like, oh, I'm sorry, I have a dentist appointment, or I'm sorry, I'm on vacation and there won't be great Wi-Fi, or I'm sorry, like, stop. Right. That you have a life, that you're a whole human. Like so that was like a big thing for me. That was a huge focus that I wanted to make sure I brought to life for the corporate people. Now, entrepreneurs are a little different, because and I am one. Okay, I'm not in corporate anymore, but I totally have empathy for that journey, because I've lived it. And that's all I coach is corporate people now. I mean, I'm only in corporate. So I'm very much steeped in it. And because I coach many companies, mostly CPG, all over the place with corporations, I can bring the best of all that knowledge, that burnout prevention, work-life balance, you know, their authentic leadership, because I'm seeing themes everywhere. But the entrepreneur's life is very different. Like we have another problem. It's like you know, it's just us. I'm not saying we wouldn't have a team, but everything's on us. You know, there's no 9 to 5, shut it down, whatever. Like my brain never shuts off. I'm constantly trying to manage my own time. So I just find it different coaching entrepreneurs versus corporate. You know, their time management's different, and their impulses are different. So yeah. Corporate's my jam, though.
I mean, I love how you talk about in your book goes into the being unapologetic. You know, saying you're sorry for everything. It seems like it's a lot of females do that. I don't know if it's just like bred into us or what, but I even have. I'm a troop lead for the girls and daughters, troop that they're part of, and I hear little girls, like teenagers, already apologizing for everything. I'm like, what are you apologizing for? All you did was, make a s'more different than the good kid next to you. Like, it doesn't mean your s'more is worse than their s'more. It's just different, right? Like, how do you help people break that habit? Because it's a habit. Saying you're sorry for everything is definitely a habit.
It is. It is. There's a few tips that I've seen over the years too. One of them is like saying you're like, instead of I'm sorry, say thank you. So I'm sorry, I'm late. Thank you for your patience. I'm sorry I didn't get that to you in time. Thank you for understanding. Thank you in advance for this, or thank you. Just throw gratitude out there and stand in your confidence and conviction. So, one thing that really it's the underpinning of all of my coaching is getting people wide awake about their values. And I find that if they're apologizing a lot, they're usually afraid of something. They're usually, there's something getting in the way. Like, do they want to be seen as a team player? So I'm sorry, I have to delegate. What's the value that they step on that they're saying that?
Right.
And so value of accomplishment, recognition, collaboration, like they don't want to dump on people, right? Because they're all also overwhelmed. So when someone can get very wide awake, and so awareness is first, is I guess my point. Awareness is key. And if they can get really aware of, I care about my reputation, or I care about how much I'm delegating to somebody or not, I care about, then that helps them not apologize, because then they can just say, hey, I really care about this, therefore X, Y, and Z. It's just position. It's just, they didn't do anything wrong. And so you're really never wrong with your values, ever.
Yes.
You're really not, because you're not intentionally doing anything to like bother anybody. It's just like you just trying to live authentically. So, and I think it's a female thing for sure. I think you're right on with that. I don't see many men.
It sucks. Like, it's just one of those that I try to be very purposeful. When I catch myself saying that, I take a moment and think about, well, am I really?
Well, let's do it. You want some life coaching?
Yeah.
You want a little life coaching?
Sure.
Right. So what's the value? Like, think about the last time you apologized, like on autopilot, right? You just kind of said, oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh,
what was the value? Like, what did you really care about? Do you remember like the example?
Oh gosh, I don't, that's a great question. Now I have to remember when I actually just apologized in passing.
All right. I know I put you on the spot. So if you don't
you know what? Like, it's probably like you make something for dinner and it's like, well, I'm sorry that the steak isn't perfect.
The value is what? Are you do you like to do things like really good quality? Are you a perfectionist? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you value high quality, on time. Maybe your customer service is high, right? Does that?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's where it's coming from. That's your why.
Yeah. And I like words of affirmation. So if something's negative,
that's like your love language, right? Words of affirmation.
Yeah.
Oh, see, yeah. So you got all that going on. There's nothing. It's just awareness. You're like a puzzle. We're all just puzzles trying to figure it out. I'm like, so in the sun here. I'm gonna try to move. There we go. That's a little better. Yeah. So I mean, that would be.
That's my plan. You're going to be in the spotlight, see? And
no, it's like the sun's moving faster than I can bank on. I'll just keep moving over. There we go. Yeah, so that's just a little tip. So when I first start coaching people about their values, nobody gets it, right? No one's like, oh, I'm so aligned with my values now, and I'm so aware. It's just like a little tally sheet. Like, wow, there it is. Again, kind of celebrated. I'm like, ooh, I really want to be liked. Like, I don't like getting negative feedback forms, or if someone was just horrible. I'm hurt, right? Because I want to deliver well. I want to add value. That's really important to me. So, when you're first new at this, just pay attention to all the things that, whether you would apologize for or things that didn't go right, but it's also a good thing. It's not always like the negative triggers. Some of it could be like, this is a really fulfilling day. Like this day was amazing. What was it? What was so honored about that day? Like, I'm in like my prime when I'm at coaching. I don't like back office stuff. I need an admin. I'm hiring. Just putting that out there. The back office.
Share that on LinkedIn. I definitely put it out there for you.
Thank you. It's so draining for me. But there's someone out there who loves it, who's so good at it. And like, that's amazing. So I want to stay in my circle of genius, and they, get to stay in there. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I like to add value in those ways. And so the more I do that, the more life is fulfilling. Wow.
I find it sometimes that changes in your career or in your life, right? Like, so for me, for right now, right? When I know I have a podcast recording like this one, when this is over, I am so filled.
Oh, see, that's good.
Right. And so, which is awesome. So, okay. Yeah. You know what? I do like talking to people, and I do like being on stage, right? And you
Yeah.
forget, like, hey, I enjoyed that when I was a kid. Right.
Oh,
So, man,
really?
it's like
That's
being
cool.
a kid.
Were you
It's
in
really
stage
cool.
like
I
you
was
had
on
like
stage. I was a drama brat. Yeah.
I love that. That's great.
Total drama brat. So to me, it's like, man, not reliving, I'm reinventing something that was a passion of mine. And not only is that a passion, but helping others and helping others grow in their career, it all goes hand in hand. Right. So
Yes.
your tip on just things like being aware of your values.
Yes.
If you're aware of your values, then you can live by your values. If you can live by your values, then you become authentically you. Sometimes in corporate America,
Absolutely.
we want to start with be authentically you, right? And I was like, well, what does that mean?
Well,
You're
I've been
starting
back like
beginning.
you'd be great if you weren't you. And I'm like, oh man, I didn't even have the mad skills that I have now. I would have handled it differently then. But now it's like, this is great. Like I want people, every human should feel like they can be themselves and thrive.
Yes.
And that
Yes.
doesn't mean everyone else needs to change around you. It means you need to choose powerfully in the circles you put yourself in and what you tolerate.
Right.
And so I'm very anti-victim mentality. One of the things that I'm very really moving forward on is choosing. You get to choose. Don't wait for a company culture to change. Don't wait for your boss to be different I'm just on here. Sorry. Don't wait. No more waiting. Life is too short. Quit waiting for someone or something to be different. And so the more wide awake
Right.
you are about your values, you can choose powerfully and then you're way more fulfilled. So
You can also choose the attitude that you come to the table with, right? Like, so I had meetings this week that I was a little nervous about, stressed out about, right? And I purposefully on Sunday, I said, this is going to be a good week. And these meetings are going to go well. And I'm going to be positive about them. So I approached situations that in the past I would have approached with like dread. And then when you approach it with dread, guess what happens? Dread happens.
it's dreadful.
It's absolutely dreadful, right? And you talk about like, well, you don't need to necessarily leave your team or you don't need to necessarily leave your boss or blah, blah, blah. No, I can choose how I show up. I think as new leaders, people who are moving from those individual contributors to being a leader of people, sometimes they don't understand that yet. They haven't learned that yet.
Right. No, you're so right. I mean, and there's always action. Choice. There's choice with action and choice with perspective. And perspective feeds the action. And like you mentioned the dread, like you ever have one of those days, it's very much a law of attraction thing. So whether people believe it or not, it's as real as gravity. So, the days you woke up on the right side of the bed, spilled your coffee, got the flat tire, every meeting. Oh, I see it spinning there. I'll just wait a second, see if it catches up. There we go. Everything's wrong. And it's almost like we get where we vibrate. So the sooner we can catch that boulder rolling downhill, the better.
Yeah, I love that choice. You are an active participant in your life and in your career.
Yes.
So and you have to be that. You have to be one of those, and you don't want to be that non-value character. You want to be the one that's adding and creating that action in your life.
Yes.
So
yeah,
very cool. Now, you mentioned at the beginning that not only, do you have, your coaching and all that, you're a black belt. You do so much on the physical space with big challenges, like Spartan type challenges, right? So how did you get into that aspect of physical fitness and competition?
Yeah. So can you hear me okay? I just want to make sure it wasn't skipping. So I was, an athlete in high school, just basketball, nothing crazy, basketball. And then in college, I was just a runner until my gym teacher in college was a sensei. He was a black belt and he invited us to this open house and I fell in love with it. It was the best. The style is Ishinru, which in Japanese means one heart way. And it was, so your heart, your character comes first, and then your technique and how you discipline yourself. And I just loved it. I loved everything about it. I loved the self-defense and the protection as a female. I loved the strength that it gave me. It was incredibly dynamic. We had to learn the history of it. We had to be really fit. I mean, we had like 2-hour or 3-hour workouts, which included conditioning and then all the learning about it. So it was great. I got my black belt, my first degree in 2 years, and then I continued to advance since then. But, then, pregnant, 3 babies, nursing, I was creating humans for like 7 years straight. So that wasn't as much of a priority for me as I got older, but I was always a runner. I love to run. And then here's a great tip. So when you're jealous of something, it tells you
Mm.
you want something. There's something, not that you're begrudging them, but there's a longing, there's a hunger for you. And I would
Yes.
see all these CrossFit posts, and I was just like, oh, I had this pang of like, I want to lift big weights. I want to do muscle ups. I want to do these things. And so I joined a local CrossFit gym and loved it. Just total
Yeah.
addict. See, I'm an all in sort of girl. Like, I'm all in. And so I loved it. And then I became a coach. They needed coaches, asked if I would get, I said, sure. And then, I coached as well. So then during COVID, though, our gym ended up shutting down, and I basically built a CrossFit gym in my shed. So now I work out at home with my family. They all appreciate my mad skills in the gym because they all get stronger for it. And I accumulated equipment over. It's a full-on CrossFit gym. I got a rig, I got pull-up bars, wall balls, all the barbells, all the things. And I just love it. And you know why I love CrossFit so much too? It's for every stage of life. Every stage of life. It's not a fit young person thing. Now, if you can't do certain things, you just modify it. I had shoulder surgery and I still did CrossFit. I was stupid about it, but like I obviously couldn't use my shoulder. Oh, wait till, I was just like a one-arm bandit for like 6 months, and I could do lower body, and I followed all my doctor's instructions and stuff, what not to do, but there's no excuse not to move. And I mean, I've heard it all. Tired, I don't have time, I'm not as fit, and I don't have equipment. Oh, girl, I can show you a workout. All right, I'll make sure that I could show you a workout in 8 minutes that will like crush the soul with no equipment. So anyway,
And
I just love
that physical aspect of your life. And it wasn't for me. Like, I did not grow up being an athlete. At all. I hated it. Right. And several years ago, I went on my own journey. Like, I had a health scare, and I was like, how am I going to be around here? How am I going to be around for my kids? How am I going to be, I got to get my act together. Right. You know, you're fighting.
I'm going to be off my table here in a second. So, well, good for you. You took control of your situation, though.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And like
scary.
50 pounds later, right? Like, it's a lifestyle now, right? So every day there's some sort of, I got to find movement. And that may mean going to the gym and lifting heavy things. It could be just going for a walk. It could be like taking the girls kayaking. It could literally be anything, but it is very rare now that I do nothing.
That's awesome.
Even like last summer, I had COVID. I still drug my little rower out, and I just kind of did a very slow row, but I'm going to do something.
You were like super aware. I remember this. I remember your post. You do like test the 2,000 meter or something. You were like, crush it.
Yeah, I didn't do that when I was sick or COVID, but yeah.
No, you know what? That's really good. And someone told me, I read this once, and it was really interesting because I used to be an all or nothing. I told you, I'm like really all or nothing. So if I couldn't sweat for like 60 minutes, I used to think it wouldn't count. And CrossFit definitely showed me that that's really not the case. Like, I can literally be dead in like 12 minutes and not need to do one more thing for the day. But I read somewhere, it was like, don't take days off, even just stretch. And I was like, wow, I know it's spinning here a little. I thought that was really interesting. Like, just even a walk, a 10-minute walk. So not everything needs to be like a crushing workout. It could just be a simple walk or a simple stretching.
Right.
So I like that.
Yeah.
I'm all about lowering the bar.
Yeah. It was lowering the bar.
I am. I know it sounds like totally like badass or whatever, but I got to tell you, like, I love keeping the bar low, especially because I coach burnout prevention.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you try to do too much, you got to find the balance. So what I like to do is I like to ask everybody kind of towards the end, if you could go back 20 years and talk to yourself 20 years and give her some advice, what coaching would you give yourself 20 years ago?
Oh, okay. So it's breaking up a little. What would I give my 20-year-old, like 20 years of self advice? What advice would I
Yeah.
give? Oh, um, I like this question. I would probably tell them to follow their heart more about the values. See, no one talked like that 20 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
No one did talk like that. I always did I did the smart thing. I did
Mm.
the good girl thing. I was, raised Catholic my whole life, and I was a pleaser by nature, so I wanted to make sure everyone else was okay. So I guess the
Mm-hmm.
advice I would give would be, it's not selfish to put yourself first. It's not
Oh, I love
selfish
that.
to put yourself first.
That's
It's
awesome.
self-serving so that you can continue to give to other people. That would
Yeah.
be my number one
Yeah.
advice.
I love that. So I know you've got some really cool things that people can reach out to you. You've got a book and all that. Can you tell us what are some of the
Yes.
best ways for people to reach you?
Yes, the best way, I mean, you can always, if you follow me on Instagram, I am the most active there. Okay, so you can DM me on Instagram. It's Janine_LFC for Live Full Coaching. My website's there where you can email me, and those would probably, and LinkedIn. I would say
Yep.
LinkedIn and Instagram are the best ways to reach me. Yep.
Awesome. And the book, I'm assuming we can find the book on any, Amazon, all of those great
Yeah,
places.
and
Somebody wants to pick that up.
Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Yep, mostly Amazon, but you can find it in other bookstores as well. Yep.
This has been awesome. Some of the takeaways I wrote down, fine is the other 4-letter word. And I do love my 4-letter words. So I'll have to put that on my list. Be unapologetic. Stop saying you're sorry. Replace it with gratitude. Replace it with that, hey, thank you so much for being patient. And be wide awake of your values, because that will drive you and direct you to what's important to you. You get what you choose, right? So you have to choose like your attitude and how you're approaching situations. And if you're judging something or someone, you're being pulled towards that. Those are some of those key takeaways I took down, those nuggets from today's conversation.
I love it. It's perfect. Thank you.
Well, this
Thank
was
you
great.
for having me. I know we had a little swirling little IT issues here, but I think it was important stuff. I really appreciate you having me on. You do great work here. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and everyone listening. Please make sure you subscribe, like, comment, share, review, all the things. That way we can continue to get the podcast out there. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you for tuning into Might in Motion. If you learned something about motivation, momentum, mindfulness, or might, please like, comment, and share. Thank you.